Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento. And I'll tell you what, having been an entrepreneur for more than 17 years already, I can very confidently say that your success or failures are going to be mostly hinged on the people behind your business. People are the most important thing in any business, but unfortunately, people are also the hardest thing to get right. And that's why we're all in for a real treat today, because we've got an incredible fellow entrepreneur as a guest, and someone who really embraces and jumps into the human capital component of growing a team, of building a team, of being successful together. And you're going to hear that she does it with incredible energy. So let me introduce you to today's guest. Her name is Deya Booker. Deya believes that every small business and business leader has the power to make a big impact, not just in their bottom line, but in their people and the communities they serve. After years as a human resources executive for global Fortune 500 companies, she saw a clear gap. Small businesses and growing organizations were doing incredible things, but struggling without the HR support, systems, and leadership tools that big corporations rely on. That realization led her to create her company, Bloom & Beacon HR, which is a consulting and coaching firm that helps purpose-driven small businesses and business leaders across the U.S. build strong teams, smart systems, and sustainable growth. Through coaching, leadership development, and HR strategy, she helps entrepreneurs and leaders turn chaos into clarity, cutting hiring time, reducing turnover, and creating workplaces where people actually love to work. These are high barometers for success, but Deya absolutely lives up to those, and that's why I'm not going to say anything else. I'm super excited about this one. Let's dive straight into my interview with Deya Booker. All right, Deya, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. I'm excited to be here as well.
Heck yes, you've got a lot to live up to, Deya. I'm already a big fan of your work, having seen so much of your content. I'm very excited to geek out about a lot of it together here today. But before we jump into that stuff, take us beyond the bio. Who is Deya? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Well, yes, I remember sitting in my corporate office thinking, these are great tools that I have access to. If small business owners had even half of these tools, or even a fraction of these tools, they would be unstoppable. And so I just saw this gap, and I realized that small businesses were doing incredible work, but they struggled with many things involving people, the hiring, creating their structure, leadership, and of course, burnout. And so with that, I really decided to take a leap, and I founded Bloom & Beacon HR. And really, it's to help those entrepreneurs and those business leaders build strong teams, really create clear systems, and really maintain confidence in their leadership without being overwhelmed. That was the key. I did not want these small business owners or entrepreneurs to feel overwhelmed. And so, as you shared, I love to work with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, really helping them grow and meet their potential and really work within their passion.
Yes, I love that overview for so many reasons, but Deya, I'm not going to let you slide past me so easily there. I want to hear I love the fact that this started from you working inside of big business, because you're right, they have so many advantages that us smaller business owners don't necessarily have. You saw that gap, but what I'm not going to let slide by so quickly is that you took action on that gap. You built an incredible business. I love your branding. I love the energy behind your brand. I love all the work that you're doing, but I also know how much work goes into that, how much strategy and intention obviously brought Bloom & Beacon HR to life. So you've got to take us back to that moment of you identifying the opportunity, but then saying, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to actually start my business and help others do this.
Yes, I really enjoy the people aspect and helping people solve challenges that may not be really blatant and right front and center. And so I realized all of this great knowledge, all these great tools that I gained working for these wonderful companies, I could take it and leverage it and really work within my passion, which is helping other organizations. So I thought about it. There were many years where I said, you know what, I'm going to take this leap. And then I said, nope, I'm going to stay in my comfort zone. I'm going to stay continuing to climb that corporate ladder. I enjoyed my time working in corporate America, but I felt this tug that my real passion was for working with smaller organizations because I could see the gap. And so, yes, I did a ton of planning and strategizing and just really trying to figure out how can I fill a need and a gap that I saw within the small business and entrepreneur community. And so I would say it took me a few years to actually take that leap. There were several years where I said, I'm going to do it, and then I didn't. And then another try. But really what I did was I sat down, spent some time in silence. I really thought back over my career on my strengths, what I enjoy doing, my areas of opportunity. And I said, if this isn't the time for me to do it, I need to go ahead and take a bet on myself and really go out on my own and take these tools and then create my own ecosystem to help others.
Yes, I love that. And I'm so glad secretly to hear behind the scenes that it did take you a few years. I think we can all relate to that is these things don't pop up. Well, one concept that I always love reminding myself of is that when we see other people's results, it's not the result of what they did yesterday. It's the result of probably months, quarters, or most commonly years of thinking about it, planning about it, strategizing it. And those false starts move us inch by inch forward along the way. So it's really cool to hear how that's part of your journey. But I've got to ask you this, because the way that you talk about HR, the way that you talk about the people behind businesses, I'd say it goes far beyond what a lot of us are accustomed to in our 9-to-5 jobs. Is that all too often people feel like there's a tendency, I'll throw a little bit of shade out there, there's a tendency that people think, HR, it's just bureaucracy, it's just paperwork, it's benefits, it's forms that I have to fill out. They don't necessarily see how solid HR strategies can unlock growth, can unlock happiness, can unlock so much power inside of a business. So, Deya, how are we thinking about HR the wrong way? What's the real function that it plays?
I will say that people are still the heartbeat of an organization and of a business. And I always say this, that it's no matter what size your organization, if you're a solopreneur or you have a large team, your people are your power. So it really doesn't matter the size. The people are the heartbeat. And what I will say is your culture is going to start with you. So people are really going to help your organization run really well, or unfortunately, it can take a turn in the wrong direction. And what I can say is that business gets better when people do. And so what I find with entrepreneurs, with business owners, is that you have to be a leader. You have to be able to coach and provide clarity for your team. So yes, HR, you can say, oh, we just hire and fire people. No, that is not the case. People are truly the heartbeat of a business. You have this wonderful idea to launch a business, but you need people, whether it's a contractor or an employee or volunteers. People are the heartbeat. And if you're not clear with your expectations or you set parameters in place, it can really turn into a nightmare. So I say, honestly, you need people to keep your business up and running successfully.
Deya, even hearing the way that you talk about that, it shows me that you really view that overarching role that HR should play. I love that you highlighted, sure, hiring and firing. Those are at very extreme ends of the HR timeline in our businesses. But even to the extent that you called out, hey, solopreneurs, which so many listeners in our worldwide audience fit that criteria, even solopreneurs need to be thinking about this stuff because it leaks into and can become the superpowers that we have in our business, in our marketing and in our sales and in our finances and in our onboarding and in our operations. Really, it touches every aspect of our business. So walk us through, I don't know if it's like a formal thing that people talk about in the world of HR, but what does that HR timeline look like? Obviously, it starts with, I would imagine, a job posting or recognizing, hey, we need to hire somebody, to what that hiring process looks like, what their onboarding looks like, that important messy middle of, hey, how do we build that culture? I'm oversimplifying it, but what does that HR life cycle look like?
Certainly. So, Brian, I can tell you, I'll start with solopreneurs, right? You're probably thinking, I'm a solopreneur. There is no one on my team. It is just me. I am juggling all the things. I'm trying to stay afloat. Even if you are a one-person show, you're already building your people systems. It's how you communicate, it's how you set boundaries, and then it's how you outsource things. So think about the habits that you create as a solopreneur are the habits that are going to be the blueprint as you build your future team. So I've had solopreneurs where they start planning for that very first hire 6 months before the job is even posted. The first thing that an entrepreneur needs to do, including solopreneurs, is understand what are your organization's mission, vision, and values. That's the first thing. You want to have clarity on what are you striving towards? What's the purpose of your business? Are you solving a problem? You want to have that as your foundation, because if you don't have clarity on that, it's very hard to then start hiring talent if you're confused as to what they're going to be doing and what your overall purpose and mission, vision, and overall business strategy are.
I want to call that out because a lot of people are probably hearing this and thinking to themselves, and this is a thought I think we've all had in our early entrepreneurial days of, I can't afford X. Like when people say, I can't afford to be marketing. You can't afford not to be marketing. And I think that that's especially true in your line of work. I always forget that stat that's out there in the HR world about an unsuccessful hire costs us so much more than just what their salary is. The costs that come along with onboarding the right or the wrong person are extraordinary. It's for most businesses, it's our biggest cost center and our biggest investment center in how we can fuel our future growth. Talk to us about how we get that right, because Deya, you are an expert in this realm, but I would very much argue it is the hardest thing to get right in business. What's your attitude? What are some of those insider secrets? How the heck do we get hiring right?
So the first thing that I will say is you want to understand the difference between a contractor and an employee. So you might not be at the point in your business where you're ready to hire a part-time or a full-time employee. That's fine. But what you want to do first is understand the difference between a contractor and an employee, because you want to get that right before it costs you. And trust me, it will cost you thousands and thousands of dollars if you get it incorrect. So what you want to think about first is it's not about what you call these individuals, it's how they actually work. So if you think about it, the control, so you control their schedule, maybe when they're paid, what their role, what their responsibilities are, that equals an employee. Where the person has a bit more independence, maybe they're not coming in every day, maybe they're working on a specific project for a specific period of time, that is a contractor. So my tip would be, if they walk like an employee, if they talk like an employee, and they work like an employee, the IRS is going to treat them like an employee. And so there are instances where I've helped businesses determine, is it best for me to bring on a contractor? Is it best for me to then convert them to maybe part-time employee? So that is definitely the first step, is understanding, do I hire a contractor or an employee, and getting that right first. The other thing I will say about hiring, do not wait until you are drowning. It's too late at that point. The best time to hire, especially as an entrepreneur, is before you hit burnout. Okay. And so you're probably wondering, well, Deya, I don't have the capital. I don't have the funding. These are some signs that you know you're ready to think about hiring. Maybe you're turning down work, you're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe you're spending hours on tasks that are $20 tasks, but maybe your time is worth $100 or $200. So my tip when it comes to hiring is start small. Delegate tasks before titles. There was one founder that I worked with, and this particular founder waited too long to hire. However, when she finally hired admin, she was able to delegate work. She was able to double her client capacity in just 3 months. So the key I will say is hire before you hit that wall, not after. The other thing I'll say, I can go on about hiring.
Yeah, please do, Deya.
Other thing I'll say is leveraging AI. So the key here is you can work smarter, but you also are going to stay human. So AI can certainly do some of that heavy lifting, but it's not doing the heart work. Remember, your people are the heart of your organization. So you can use AI as a tool to help you with job descriptions, interview guides, standard operating procedures, templates that you may need, but always remember to personalize them with your voice, your values, your mission, your vision. I worked with a solopreneur and they leveraged AI to create some materials for hiring, but it was actually a recorded, personalized video that they created that helped them select the right people. So I will say to you, you can also leverage AI, let them handle the structure, let AI handle the structure for you so that you can then focus on your people. And one other item I'll just add is the famous, this happens all the time that I will say, and I see it a lot with entrepreneurs. You need help. You may not have the time to hire. You don't have the experience to hire. And so what do? You go to look to hire your friends and family. What I will say to that is proceed with clarity, not comfort. Hiring people that you love can certainly work, but you have to be clear and you have to be professional. And yes, you already have a built-in trust and shared values, but you got to be really careful because those lines can get blurred and your entire business as well as the relationship can certainly sink. So what you want to do if you are considering bringing in family or friends, you've got to treat them like you do any other employee. Can they do the role? What are the job expectations? What are the pay agreements that you have? And then conduct regular performance check-ins. What you don't want to do is bring in family or friends and it just causes a lot of turmoil. What I will say to you is if you can't talk about performance with those friends and family working in your business, don't mix it at your Sunday family dinner or at your family reunion. It may be best just to keep the relationship separate from your business.
Ooh, Deya, so much food for thought. I love that. I'm going to call this out. In 1,300 episodes of being on the air, you're the first person that I've ever heard use that term of heart work. I think that's such an important differentiator for us to really remember. What is the heart work in our businesses and how can we, in an AI era, which we all embrace AI, like that's a good thing for so many of us, but that heart work, that's the stuff that can't be replaced by the AI. I love your emphasis on that and really appreciate the fact that you've thought about all these things. I feel like I could toss you any aspect of what it means to have a successful people strategy in place in our businesses. And that's why I want to take one step past the hiring process because you already threw that giant C word out there of culture that we hear so much about. Easier said than done, of course. What are the considerations that we all need to know as business owners when it comes to actually building that culture so that it's not just words on paper, it's not just mottos, but it's actually put into practice?
Yes, culture is so important and the word is thrown around a lot. You want to understand what is your organization? What is the purpose? What is the vision? What is the mission? And what you want to do is take a really deep dive into your organization and you want to understand what is the culture? What are the things that I want to promote? What are the behaviors? What are the values that I find that are critical? Acting with integrity may be one. Treating people with respect may be another. And what you want to do is once you've laid out what the culture is that you want at your organization, you have to also lead by example. What I sometimes find is there's a great culture document that organizations will create. Even entrepreneurs will create it. This is our culture, but they actually don't walk the walk and talk the talk. So if you're in a place where you say my doors are open, we respect everyone, we love brand new ideas, that's the culture of your organization. And you want to make sure as a leader that you are adhering to that as well. And the other piece to it is you want to get feedback. if you think your culture is supposed to head in one direction, but you're getting negative feedback, whether it's from your customers or maybe from your employees, or you're just not seeing the results you would, that's where you pause, and you can certainly ask questions. Understand, what do people think of your culture? What do they believe? Because what you may think is your culture is not actually what reality is. So I will really say you want to lead by example when you're thinking about the culture. And it's truly, what are those fundamental aspects that really make your organization, your business stand out from the others?
Yeah. You talk about fundamentals, but Deya, that hidden in the side of the word fundamentals is really part of your secret sauce that made our team reach out to you very excitedly to invite you to come onto the show with us, and that is fun. I will say that we interview a lot of entrepreneurs here on the show, and we research a lot of entrepreneurs that we choose to potentially invite onto the show or not, and you have the secret sauce of making this stuff fun in a world where not everybody views HR in a fun way, and I think that your ability to do that through a computer monitor, through videos, through text on your website, that's a special quality. And I think it really speaks to the fact that more and more teams these days are remote teams. And so when you and I talk about these HR strategies, historically we view in the office, and a lot of us have worked in various offices, and we've been to team building events and, fun retreats and all of those things. But Deya, how the heck do you capture this stuff and create that culture of fun, or whatever the culture is that we're looking for from our own businesses? How do you capture that and build it in a remote environment where I'll transparently share, like, my team lives in Slack together. That is a lot of our interactions happen over Slack, and of course video calls, but I'm really excited to hear some of those remote considerations from you.
Certainly. I am always an advocate of listening to your team. You as the leader, you as the CEO, may have an idea in your mind, but you want to understand, is that idea going to work? Is it going to be received well, especially when you have a virtual team, or folks that are located in different locations, whether it's different time zones. So what I've learned is you have to survey and understand your team. Example, you might have team members that are in 3 different time zones. So having an 8 a.m. meeting and you're on Eastern time, for those who are on Central time, for someone who's on Pacific, that's not really considerate, right? And so what you want to think about is, how can maybe we rotate our team meetings so we don't have one group always early in the morning, or the other team late at night. So simple things like understanding meetings when you are virtual is definitely critical. I will also say you want to understand people's styles. You have some folks that are introverts, and maybe when they're on a group Zoom call, they may not want to speak up, but maybe they are great in that chat or in Slack. So what I find is also helpful, especially for entrepreneurs, is finding out what your staff, how they like to communicate. Do they like to be communicated in a large form, in a smaller form? Do they prefer to write things out? It's really understanding more about each individual on your team. And that has definitely helped some of the clients that I've worked with. We've done virtual meditation sessions. We've done personality assessments where you do a portion before you jump on a call or on a Zoom, and it allows you to really understand your team a bit more. So yes, you're going to talk about the business. You're going to talk about the metrics, your KPIs, your deliverables. But the other part of a virtual environment is to allow your team to really bring their entire selves to your workplace virtually. So you want to understand them a bit more and really take suggestions, recommendations. So I've done meditation sessions with teams. We've done scavenger hunts. We will set up meetings in the afternoon on a Friday and do a virtual happy hour. There are just certain ways that you want to build a rapport with your team. And I will tell you, it's not going to happen overnight. It's consistent. So if you can set up, once a week or once every month, we're going to have an activity, and let your team come up with ideas, because you'd be surprised at how creative members of your team. You find out very interesting things about members of your team when you're virtual. You can even do show and tell, bring from your home office, or bring from your home, what's that one article that maybe we have no idea because we're a virtual team. So there's so many aspects of virtual, but the key that I will say is you really want to understand your organization, understand your team, try to get to the individual level if you're able to. Surveys are always great. And then again, you can delegate. You don't always have to be the person leading the meeting, but you want to ensure that everyone feels included, that their ideas are being heard, but it's consistency that's the key, and being considerate. That is definitely the key as well when it comes to managing in a virtual environment.
Yeah, so well said. Holy cow, Deya, you are so effortlessly. Listeners know that this show is entirely unscripted, and so that's why I'm always in awe of our guests' ability to come on and just roll with wherever my curiosities take us. And obviously, I'm thinking about the listeners and what they want to go into. I've got to ask you this, because I imagine a lot of listeners, well, I know so many of them are growth-oriented, and I think that's something that is a universal trait for all of us as entrepreneurs. I don't do bored very well. If I am bored for even 5 minutes, I will go build something, or I will learn a new skill, or I will do something. And obviously, Deya, in our teams, that's something that we also want to cultivate for our team members, is that we also want them to grow. We want them to grow in their role. We want them to grow in compensation. We want them to grow in skills. How does that look like? How can we, as executives, as business leaders, how can we facilitate that growth? Because it's a personal thing, of course, but we can put people in those positions. I'm super curious what you've got up your sleeves when it comes to that.
Yes, again, it goes back to communication. Keeping the lines of communication open with individuals on your team is critical. So what I will say is get to know those team members. You onboard them, you hire them, they start in your organization, they have a job description, they have expectations, but do regular check-ins. Find out what their passions are, what their skills are. If you observe them working on a project, or they mention to you that they have this skill set that they really haven't used, these are times where you want to listen and observe. The other aspect, I think it's a two-way street. And so not only you as the people leader, you as the leader in the organization want to ask the employee and observe, but you also want them to take ownership of their career. Where do they see themselves in the next 12 months or 18 months or 36 months? Have them create a career plan. And again, this will help you as you're having regular check-ins, which I highly recommend. Quarterly is great. And it's just a check-in. I call it a vibe check. How are you doing? What areas of opportunity that you as the leader may observe? And then also ask for feedback from the employee, because as a leader, that is how you grow. Everything is not perfect. You may be the CEO, but you don't know everything. And so the key is take the feedback that your team provides, but also give them an opportunity to articulate what their interests are and maybe where they see their career. And then having those regular career conversations, again, it can be quarterly, it can be semi-annual, it can even be once a year, but you just want to keep the traction going with regular conversations, because that way your employees really understand, wow, my leader really values me. They're listening to me. And that will help you with retention. It will also help you with growing and helping that employee continue to flourish in their career.
Gosh, Deya, you make me just want to have coffee and hang out with every single team member. Honestly, it's so true. And I feel like that's the cool thing about your approach to this, is that I can see why you emphasize so much that your approach eliminates burnout for all of us business leaders and entrepreneurs, because you're actually taking the pressure off of us to have those answers and just tune in to our team members, set them up for success, which the beautiful thing about most things in life is that when we set others up for success, we just so happen to also set ourselves up for success. So I really love and appreciate your grounded approach, and I'm excited to hear how you answer this final question. It's the one question I ask at the end of every episode, because time absolutely flows by, so I want to leave you with a super broad one that you can take in any direction you want, and that is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, and also knowing that you're one of us, you are a fellow entrepreneur. What's that piece of advice that you want to leave them with today?
So I will say leading with purpose and not pressure. That was truly inspirational to me is that I'm leading with understanding what is my purpose, and that's what's going to help me stay grounded and be grateful every day. Your purpose is going to be your anchor, and this is going to be really helpful when things get hard, because they are going to get hard as an entrepreneur. It is truly a roller coaster ride, but when things get hard, this helps you return to your why, and it definitely has helped me. I will say, for the entrepreneur that is thinking about scaling and growing and hiring, you don't want to wait until a crisis to build your people strategy. You want to start small. You want to get clear on your values, on your mission, on your vision. You want to make sure that you're communicating your expectations early, and you got to recognize those wins, even those small ones. So I will just say, definitely work within your passion. What brings you joy? Where are you able to make a difference? Where can you flourish and fly? And just follow that path, even when it does get tricky.
Yes, I love that advice, Deya. And I especially love when our guests are giving advice that it's so clear to me, having researched our guests as much as I do, that you are practicing what you preach. And I'm so grateful for the way that you show up in your business. I'm super grateful for the way that you show up for others. And I'm very excited for listeners to go deeper into all the great work that you're doing. I love your brand. I feel like I've sung your praises a few times in today's episode, because it's rare that I land on someone's website and instantly feel like I already know them. And your energy shines through in the way you talk about people strategy, the way you talk about how this unlocks growth in our businesses so that we can grow more, we can be more productive, we can have happier teams, we can avoid that burnout, we can then serve our customers and clients in all new ways. So Deya, you're doing amazing things, and I want listeners to go check your work out online. So drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Certainly, you can check us out at Bloom Beacon HR. That's our website. We're also on Instagram at Bloom Beacon HR. You can also send me a note. I love to connect with fellow entrepreneurs. If you're stumped, if you're in a bind, certainly reach out. Also on LinkedIn, so you can find me through Bloom and Beacon HR, or you can look me up at Deya Booker.
Yes, and listeners, you already know the drill. We're dropping all of those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. We're linking straight to bloombeaconhr.com, as well as Deya's personal LinkedIn. You just heard her open invitation right there. If you want to add her to your network and continue the conversation with her, it's never too early. I hope that is one of the big takeaways that every single listener walks away from today's episode with, especially you solopreneurs. I know that so frequently it feels like the HR industry overlooks solopreneurs, but holy cow, Deya knows how to set all of us up for success in our businesses. So take her up on that. Deya, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Brian.